Hey guys, Andy N, Book and Label back in the house. Yes, interesting day. First of all, I'm going to point this out today. People on camera will notice I'm minus a tooth at the front of my mouth at the moment because it disintegrated on me a couple of days ago completely. So I've got it in the bathroom in the carry bag, and I've got to try and get into the doctors, let them have a look at it, and I'll probably end up with a plastic tooth. But and I'm also padded up today as well. I've got a jacket on, jumper, t-shirt, whatever you call this that goes around your neck, and a big scarf. So it's freezing. Yeah, it's crazy. We've had a week of it over in the UK, perishing. So, but we're down south today anyway, down to London, just outside London, and we're seeing an old friend of ours today. We just worked it out. Me and Eden here. We've not spoke for about nearly about 2 years. You reckon, Eden, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is
Yeah,
about 2 years. Yeah.
Eden. You got Eden Gruger with today, and I love Eden because she's there's a lot lady has a lot of skills like I do, and we're going to talk about her new book today as well, among other things. So now, obviously, Eden, before we start, how cold is it down your way at the moment? Then is it freezing down there?
It, yes, it's cold. I mean, it really, really is cold, but it's not cold like it is where you are. I'm not going to pretend. Yeah, my sister lives in Derbyshire and she's got proper snow.
Oh,
We are like, we've got a slight sprinkling and everyone's like, no, I'm not going out. Can't go out in this. So,
oh,
yeah.
yeah. We should have been going over to Bradford yesterday to go and see Amanda's younger sister and her family, and they're snowed in. And I said, no, I told Amanda, let's leave it a week, maybe two or three yet. So yeah, it's not worth it. Yeah, so we'll catch them up and catch up with them. So hi, Helen, if you're listening. Now, obviously, today then we'll talk about Eden's new book. Now, but Eden, before we come on to this, I think we better you better tell people a bit about yourself, and we'll come on to where this book's come from after that.
Yes. I'm a writer, obviously, like
Yeah.
yourself. And the book that we're going to talk about in a bit, that's my eighth book. So
Wow.
I started off writing humour because I can sometimes be a bit funny. And yeah, that went really well. But wherever I went in writers' conferences and stuff, I was normally the only woman writing humour, writing comedy. So, I mean, that was fine. You know, I'm a bit of an outlier, but um, I started to reach out to other writers, and other writers were reaching out to me and asking me how I did things. And because I worked in traditional publishing before, which I think I did tell you before, so I had a bit of an extra background, even though I'm indie now. And yeah, so then I became an Alliance of Independent Authors approved mentor since we spoke last, which is pretty flipping cool. I'm really happy about that. And that basically means they've vetted me and checked that I'm above board, I know what I'm talking about. And yeah, so I now mentor people. And the other big news that's happened since I spoke to you last is I've been diagnosed autistic, which is not
Oh,
a surprise to
yes.
anybody.
No,
Yeah,
it didn't
except for
surprise
me.
me. Yeah, didn't surprise me that because I've told you before about some of the young writers I'm
Yeah,
mentoring, and I'm going to name them. Hi, Courtney. Hi, Charlotte, and hi, Emily. Yes. Now it does not surprise me that with you because it's you get used to seeing the signs with people
yeah,
because yeah, and it's I've got family like that. To honest with you, Amanda's
yeah,
family. There's a trait in that, and you get a stage of society you can see it in people more and more
yeah.
nowadays.
Well, the thing is, now I'm diagnosed. I'm like, well, yeah, obviously, but at the time, before, I just didn't understand, and I've got a really strong sense of justice. And if things aren't right, and if things, if someone's being treated unfairly, it drives me nuts. And I could never understand why is it driving me nuts. And other people, they might be annoyed about it, but it doesn't seem to be really getting in their head in the same way. And anyway, so now I'm autistic. There we go, and I'm quite autistic. And the actual assessment was brilliant. The people that I went to were amazing, and I was sort of, even though I'd kind of psyched myself up that they probably would say, yeah, you are. When she said, yes, you are autistic, and I said, am I borderline? And she was like, no. I was like, okay, but yeah, and since then I've just really learned so much more about it and connecting with my people. And yeah, so yeah, that's I mean that's quite a lot that's happened.
Yeah, it is a bit really because like I'm dyspraxic and it's same with it's on this different sort of level to autism. But I've read reports saying a lot of creative people have this kind of trait, and it seems because your brain operates in different ways to other people. I think
Definitely.
I saw it coming a mile off you when I spoke a couple of years ago. I remember telling a few people about this. I saw it. I've straight away with you. So, but you know,
Yeah.
still, but I'm pleased for you, Ed. At least you got the diagnosis on it because
Yeah.
it's hard to get the diagnosis nowadays. And I don't know what the backlog's like where you are, but Leeds, which is not that far away from where Manchester is, there's a 5 or 10 year wait to get diagnosed, which is
Yeah.
it's disgraceful.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of, because I actually, it wouldn't have occurred to me. So people say, oh, social media is so bad. I don't agree. So I followed this couple on TikTok, and the guy found out he was autistic, and a few of the things they were saying, I was like, that rings a bell. And they recommended this questionnaire, which I did. And then from the questionnaire, I scored so highly that they were like, yeah, you should get an assessment. But in the end, because here it was a number of years, and I thought, I'm 51 now. I can't wait any longer to know stuff about myself. And I was in a fortunate position that I was able to go private. So I found out from the questionnaire to the thing was 6 weeks.
It shows you done it. We can afford to go private. The big
Yeah,
difference is nowadays because
yeah, yeah,
it's worth noting that when I came dyspraxic, I was noted when I was 29. It got picked up when I was at university.
yeah,
I'd struggled all my life with the tics of it, like you do your autism yourself, because I'm 52 now. But I had no inkling. But you don't. But you look back at your family afterwards, and my mum's got it definitely.
yeah,
Because I can see the way my
yeah,
mum is with spelling and coordination. There's a trait in your family on it straight away.
definitely. Yeah,
That that's why. But no, I'm pleased for you that seriously. Now,
yeah,
obviously today, then we're here today to talk about your new book.
yes,
Yes, and this is not a fiction book either. It's one of your non-fiction books.
it is.
Yes.
It
Now,
is.
the book in question is called How to Write Without Block. But first of all, we need to explain to people this has come off your masterclasses, hasn't it? As an
Yes.
extension. So tell us about the masterclasses first of all.
Yeah. So with the actual one-to-one mentoring, obviously there's only a certain number of people that I can work with. I normally only work with 5 a year, so they get my undivided attention. So I designed these masterclasses so people still got my input, but without actually having to be with me one-to-one. So they've got these 14 audio classes, and they go from how to write through editing, publishing, and all through the marketing side, right the way through to how to give an interview. So there's every step of the author journey. And then the actual how to write without block masterclass, I thought a lot of the things that my clients were talking to me about, I thought I can expand this. And this is a book as well. And that's how it started. And yeah, so I designed. So what I was looking at is that everybody's brain works differently, and you know, obviously I've learned this about myself this year. So everybody's brain works differently, and everybody's got a preferred style of learning and engaging with the world. And I then designed an exercise for each of these learning and brain types. So hopefully, anyone that reads the book, that if they're struggling with block, that hopefully it will help them to understand how to get out, but also before you get to that stage, so that you can build good writing habits and stay out of block in the first place. So yeah,
Yes. No, it's fantastic, this book. So you sent me the preview of to read of it. I've it really resonated with me, this did. And should we talk about the bits and the themes in the book then to give you some ideas, I think? Because it's
yeah,
good because I've went on the website and I've grabbed all the bits and pieces I need to help me understand this. Now, first of all, then, I don't want to give too much away, obviously. I want people to buy the book.
ideally.
I'm preferably also subscribe to your masterclasses as well. But do you want to give us, first of all, then, explain to us what causes the block, the writers, first of all?
Yeah. So what I talk about in the book is that there are external factors, so stuff that's going on in your life, the support or lack of, your time pressures, your energy pressures. But then there's also things from inside yourself that it doesn't matter how much time and energy you've got, you don't write. And that's the thing. Um, and when it's like that, there are other factors at play which are probably affecting other areas of your life as well. And so if you struggle with confidence or having a voice in your normal life, writing is going to be a really tricky thing to grasp and keep hold of. So yeah, that's kind of the message that we then start unraveling.
Yeah, now we talked off mic before on this, and this is somewhat I've not really talked about on my side, and I know it's something you can relate to. You're right with it because you said it's my world, and it is my world really. Because I stumbled onto this when I was 10. I'm 52 and it's been with me all my life. And it's, I suspect, I know in your case it's something similar. And in my family, we're all big readers. I like it is that I've got my mum's not as massive a reader as my dad is, but I've never told this about my dad. But my dad's got something like about 40 bookcases up and down the house where they live. And he's got, we reckon, 4,000 books. I know
Isn't
he don't go out. His legs are gone nowadays, unfortunately, really at all. But he can love just loves reading. And my mum's got into reading older she's got. And same with my family, my sister's got something similar she has. My brother's got a Kindle with 600 books on. And it's like and Amanda, my wife's done it. We're all big readers. But it's even though they never really encouraged me directly, they encouraged me to read. And in my case, that's where it started from. But you're on about here, and I'm thinking you must be right. You talk about it's like in your family backgrounds, not readers. They don't understand you, do they, sometimes? And that's a block itself.
most definitely, and I would actually expand it if your people around you, and most families are not full of creatives. There might be creative people that they do creative pursuits, but they're not people that are trying to necessarily make some money from it for to get their stuff out there. And my family, um, they they're all quite eccentric people, but everybody had like proper jobs, and there was nobody trying to make a living from being creative. And actually, I learned to read before I went to school. Thank you, Nanny. And reading was just such an absolute joy to me. And as soon as I realised that people were writing the books that I liked reading, I was like, that's it, that's all I want to do. But I was very much discouraged from that. So eventually I ended up working in traditional publishing, but um, that was mainly to be around books because I'd been told writing is not a job; it's a thing that you do as a hobby, and actually it take the priority of writing is under the family, the housework, the this and that. It was so far down, there was never any time for it and no
Yeah.
energy for it.
No,
And
great.
I think
It's
a
great.
lot,
Great. Great.
yeah, a lot of people are experiencing that.
Yeah, that's a different generation, but you're right of it. It's what we were both brought up because like, we're both in our 50s, me and you.
Yeah,
It's I wasn't, but I always remember this at school. We were expected we could work in a factory or a shop. We were never expected to be able to come writers. And that's why it's different generation, but you're right of it. And I think it's still
yeah,
there now, to be honest with you, to a
I
degree.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But your book is, I think it's really interesting because you're looking at people, how you can actually work out how your brain accesses the world and it. And this, I'm reading what it says here. And I think you're training people how to look at things like that is you make you realize, and this is what's really good about the internet actually is the internet is brings the world together.
definitely.
And that's why. Did you find when you were growing up yourself when you get into your creativity, it was hard, wasn't it, really, to find the information you needed?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, both of us, we remember a time before the internet, but if
Yeah,
you wanted to find something out, you had to go to a book for it. Now, yes, that was amazing, but it meant that you could only access what the books around you were telling you. And so I think the internet is an amazing force for good. And being able to connect with like minded individuals, being able to learn things without even necessarily connecting with someone, you can connect with their content. Um, and yeah, I mean, I know myself that yeah, it's opened up an awful lot of worlds to me. And when I'm researching a book, that's another really amazing way to use the internet, because I can talk to people whose life experiences are completely different from mine. And that's really helpful when you're creating characters that aren't you, which most of us are doing.
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. If you do, it's like you're in contact with people all the time. That's something good about the podcasting game for me, is like I've told you about obviously before, I've got another podcast coming on later on, some from South Africa, and their life experiences are completely different to both yours and mine.
Yeah,
And I think you're learning about different things all the time if you keep your mind open to it.
definitely.
Now, with your book itself, I want you to tell people next, obviously, like, because we're looking at, first of all, the first couple, there's a couple of really good chapters in this, obviously, about your background and what led you to this. And I don't want to go through that. I want people to read that. So we'll skip the first four or so chapters, if that's okay, right?
Yeah.
And we'll go on to chapter five. Now, want you to tell people a few things about writing myths.
Oh, writing myths. Oh, I love this.
I
So,
thought so, yeah.
yes, I love this. So, writing myths, one of the biggest writing myths, and you will have had this, every writer will have had this, that you will meet someone somewhere and they will say, "Oh, yes, I've got a book." And you say, "Oh, amazing, what's your book? What's it doing?" "Oh, I haven't written it yet, but as soon as I get a minute, I'm going to write it." And every writer everywhere goes, mm-hmm, because we all know the time and energy that it takes, and that whole thing. And I am quite blunt, obviously. And somebody said to me in a networking meeting, "Do you think everybody's got a book in them?" And I said, "Yes, it's just that some people's book is a bit crap, because you can't write in a good book. It is blood, sweat, tears, energy, passion. It's all of that stuff." And a writing myth is that we're all on our, well, we're all on our, it used to be typewriters, now we're all on our Macs in a coffee shop with our headphones on, drinking a latte, and we're just like churning it out, and we're all so wealthy that we literally put a book out and it gets snapped up around the world, and you know we're all living our high life with our houses with swimming pools and our penthouse apartments. And so that's
Oh,
another
I wish. Oh, I wish.
I
Oh, I
know,
wish.
right? I literally, I've had to like close my swimming pool off for the winter. Yeah, right. And there are lots of myths around that, that if you, oh, I like this one. If you're really a writer, you'll just be able to sit down and it will just become naturally, and there won't be any struggle because you're a real writer. Yeah, yeah, and you can just, oh yeah, I'm ready, and it just flows. It just flows. That's so not true. That's just a load of what's it that
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it does. It's chap's really good on that one, definitely. So, yeah. Now, obviously, one of the crunch points in chapter six is obviously we've hinted at all along is what writing block is and what it isn't.
Yes.
Now, I told you before off mic about this, and I'm going to interject with my own thoughts on this as well. Is obviously, like in my case, like I said before, I've come from a family of readers, and I'm a wife, Amanda, is a novelist herself, and she just advertised this morning, which I just forgot, didn't realize that. She just on the final edits of her next book, and she's got at least two more on the go, right? So that's like we tend to push each other along all the time, whether it's consciously or not. But that's what writing block we never had it. Stu, so
No,
but
no.
some people do, don't they? So
Yeah, they really do. And being part of a community is such an important thing. And you guys, you are a community, and there's the main two of you. But writing is a very solitary business, and it can be quite lonely. And if nobody around you is in that creative sphere, they don't know, and they are feeding back the myths that they've heard to you, which is going to just add to the weight of pressure and not knowing and the lack of knowledge, because most people are writing because they want to publish, they want to share their words. It's such a strong urge in us to share our words. So if you're writing, but you're like, oh, I want this to be in front of other people, I want this to be out in the world, there's a lot of pressure to it. There is. And if you're not around other people that understand that pressure, you think you're the only one, you think you're failing, you think you're not good enough, you're worried about your voice, your writing voice. All of these things will weigh you down. So you can't lift your hands up to do any typing or writing because it's exhausting.
Yeah,
And it
no,
is.
agreed. I think the next chapter in this one, I think, is the crunch point in this really, is when you're looking at like, why is writing not such an issue? And it's like, I think a lot of it is, it's not if you can train, it's like training your mind really, isn't it?
Yeah,
You can get
definitely.
through it like it's like, yeah, I've heard people use excuses for now. Oh, I can't write when I'm not at home. I don't have the equipment with me. And I thought to myself, well, all you need is a tablet. Like there are tablets in my bag most days and I'm going to and from work. Or I have pen and at the minute got myself a big A5 hardback book like this, which
Nice.
I'm always scribbling in. Right.
Yeah, yeah,
I say there's even like Amanda was a really good example on this. Her first one of her novels, I think it was Ghost to Me, one about when a ghost ended up having to solve her own murder. I think I'm right on that one. It's either that or a lesbian mermaid book, First Charge, one of them. She was temping for a couple months at a factory, and she was writing the novel to and from work on the phone.
yeah, yeah.
There is ways, isn't
Yeah,
there, straight away,
yeah,
no matter what.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And it's almost like you've got to give yourself permission to, because you're a writer, you're already thinking creatively. So the actual practicalities, you've also got to think creatively. I remember, so I make voice notes on my phone. If I haven't got, so I've got Apple devices mainly, so they all sync. So I can write on my phone, like you're saying with Amanda. I can write on my phone, my tablet. I've got my laptop. I've always got something, and I've got a notepad. There is no chance that I'm letting any ideas slip through the net. I'm going to grab them. Never assume you're going to remember because you won't. You absolutely, and you can have. We've all had that thing where we're in the shower and we have this amazing idea of X, Y, Z, and we think, oh, when I get out, I'll write it down. No, literally turn off that shower, write it down immediately.
Do you do this?
Immediately.
Have you been known then? 'Cause I know Amanda's like this. Have you been known to get up at 4 in the morning with an idea in your head?
Oh yeah, yeah. If I can go to bed, I can be so sleepy, lay down, and I think, oh, blah blah blah, whatever. I'll get up. I'm not gonna lose my ideas because there's a reason it's come up then, and yeah, it doesn't mean I'm not going to be tired in the morning. You know, I definitely am, but it's just the writing life. It's
Yeah,
just how it is.
it is what it is. Like I said of it, I will often put like a notepad next to my bed, or and I'll scribble the line down that comes in my head. Whether I can then read it the next morning is another ball game. But yeah, but
Yeah,
Amanda's known because she's been known to get up at 3 in the morning, straight on a laptop, typing away. And I'm getting the good thoughts half an hour later. I thought, oh fucking hell, she's writing something at half past 3 in the morning.
yeah,
Oh, plus one then as
yeah.
well. Yeah, you do. It's now the one thing one of the stages I'm interested in learning about is what you talked about is briefly before and on here and on our pre-chat is what are the underlying causes to your blockages and there's no real right or wrong answers. It varies
No,
from person to person, doesn't it really?
definitely, most definitely. And it can be, you can have all the time and energy, you can have the devices, you can have a beautiful pen and notepad to write in, but you're still not actually writing. And then when that happens, you've got to look at what are the deeper issues. And sometimes, and it's touched on in the book, that you need to go deep and find out what things are affecting your confidence. If you've always been told you won't amount to anything, guess what? You probably believe that still, even though part of you knows that's not true and it could be complete nonsense. You might be amazingly successful in what you do, but the message is not so good. You're not going to allow yourself to be free and be super successful because what does that mean? And it's, we've all unfortunately been given messages at times about ourselves that are not true. not necessarily even through malice, but just because, and as kids, the day that your mum's really got the ump and says, oh, blah, 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 you're such a whatever, whatever, you'll remember that at a subconscious level. And then when you're going to try and expand yourself, I grew up in a house where we were told, you know, adults don't want to hear from you. You're quiet, you're seen, you're not heard, no one wants to hear that nonsense, you're too noisy. And obviously, as an autistic child, I was like, but that was the message that I was given. So to start with, I very much had that in my mind. No one wants to hear from me. I need to be smaller, I need to be quieter. And then as time's gone on, and obviously I've done a lot of work on myself, and I've realised that's just not true. And the people that don't want to hear from me, do you know what? They can move away.
Yeah, I'll find my own path, and that's it's the crunch point with that is learning how to stop listening, letting other people grind you down sometimes.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
one of the people I'm mentoring at the moment, and I'm not naming her in this case, I know she's just done that, and it's one of the most difficult choices you can do. Stop listening to these people that are grinding you down,
Yeah.
and having the confidence to follow your own path. So yeah, no, I agree with you completely with that, and it's easy said and done sometimes. I think straight away with it. Now,
It
now, the one that the chapter I found interesting in this book was, and I want you to explain this in more depth to people, is, and I can't really offer any much in this one, is when the issue is something else.
Yeah. Yeah. So you there is a misconception, and we hear it every flipping where, about making time. I can make time. Well, look, we cannot make time. Not one single one of us has the ability to make time. I hate that sentence with a passion. Every time anyone says it, I just want to slap them, because I'm like, you no, that's false news. So we all have the same amount of time, but if your time is taken up with caring, kids, husband, work, house, illness, all of those things, you only have a very small bit left. Sometimes you have nothing left. And if you have nothing left, you can't get blood out of a stone. You can't find, if you had, let's say, you were so busy, you had half an hour a day just to sit down and rest. Are you likely to use that half an hour a day to write the world's best novel? Or are you likely to just need to flipping rest? You need rest.
Yeah,
So you've got to
great.
be realistic about what you've got and what you haven't got. When I was really unwell, I was very, very unwell for about 7 years, and I was housebound and stuff. I could have written loads of books in that time, and 1,000 articles and whatever. But I was too ill. I needed to rest. And
Yeah,
when I was better, then I had space to write. I had space to connect. I had space to do what I really wanted to do. And I really dislike false positivity and the whole, if you really want it, you will push yourself. Do you know what? No, that's just nonsense. Because
yeah,
if you're already struggling, don't make life more complicated. Make life easier, for goodness sake.
yeah. No, agreed.
Give yourself a
Agreed.
break.
Yeah, I think it's pacing a lot of it, anything you do really. So it's like I think I told you I'm diabetic as well. And part on top of being
Oh,
dyspraxic, so I've got all kinds of whammies. But I got that when I was 39, and it floored me. It did for about 18 months afterwards because I just about made my first breaks into the spoken word world, and I had to learn to readjust. And a lot of it, as you said, is finding this pace, the new time that suits you and stuff. And yeah, that meant a lot to me straight away when that. So I agree with you.
yeah,
And how do you find for chapter 10, Eden? How do you find are you pressurizing yourself? I think we do, don't we? As
definitely.
humans, so
Yeah, this is I've said about the positive side of social media. This can be the negative side. That let's say somebody looks at my social media, and me personally, if they look at my personal social media and they go, "Oh, she's really productive and she's really busy," and am I sharing? Do you know what? I had a terrible day and I just sat around weeping and painting my toenails. I'm not sharing that because no one wants to hear about that, but they're assuming that because I'm only sharing good days, I might share, oh, I'm struggling with this chapter or whatever, but it's still in quite a positive way because I'm Eden and that's what I do. But it doesn't mean to say I'm not having a really terrible, and I can be having a really terrible time. You're not going to know that from my social media because that's not my brand. That's not how I'm presenting myself. And you're assuming then that you have bad days, the viewer has bad days, and that you're a failure in some way because you're not living up to what I might be doing. And that's just not true.
Yeah, agreed.
I can, I had a major personal situation happen literally the day before Christmas Eve, which was just, it was an absolute explosion in my emotional life. You will not see that mentioned anywhere on social media. This is the only time I'm ever going to mention it because it illustrates the fact that if you're comparing yourself to other people all the time, you're going to assume that you're seeing the whole picture and you're really not.
Good point indeed. I agree with you completely there with that. It's like there's a lot I don't talk about social media as well, and I think it's a danger with the social media world, really. You end up comparing yourself, and I think there's a lot of stuff that you shouldn't really be talking about social media constantly. And like it's Mike, you said something before, like we had well, all kinds of family problems come up back in the last year in the space of about what 3 weeks basically. With basically had long story short, we had just for Christmas, like you did, we had one family member in hospital, got them out. Then another one went in, got them out, and a third one went in and out,
Oh,
backwards and forwards. And I'll tell you about it more off camera later, don't you? But you do, I'm not the sort of person where I'll be going on about social media because it's not. It's personal stuff. And I think that's the danger with same applies writing really is there's things you don't, I think you shouldn't be talking about. Just do it. Live your life, basically. And that
yeah,
applies to your writing, I think, straight away.
definitely. Most definitely. Yeah, and it's really important to realize every single human has good days, bad days, days where they're doubting themselves. By the time I get to the end of one of my humour books, I am convinced because I've read it and worked on it so much, it is not funny to me anymore. I often think, well, this is drivel, and that's normal. That's normal. But the people that read it, they're reading it for the first time or maybe the second time, they are finding it funny. That's all that it needs.
Yeah. You do, it's that distance sometimes, I think, is
Yeah.
anything creative wise, you can get yourself too close to it. And if you get too close to it, it's awkward. I think sometimes it's
Definitely.
how you give yourself the breathing space. I agree with you completely there with that.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you work then, Eden? Your creativity.
Yeah, so I've got a slightly different way of working because so I find it really tricky because of the messages I was given about, I've got to finish everything and do everything before I can play. And even though it's now my work, it's still in my brain somehow as play. So what I actually do is I take my tablet, my notebook, my laptop, and I take it to a local park or the forest and I work in my car.
Oh,
And
brilliant.
I've done that for oh gosh, a long time. Actually I did my degree through the Open University and I did most of that in my car. That was in the day when you didn't have like a hotspot on your phone. I had to have a dongle. So
Oh, good grief.
yeah, back in the day.
Wow.
Um, but yeah, and it's just I find it so easy to concentrate, and it's lots of fresh air, and I can get out and have a little walk, and scenery is always changing. I find it so much easier than working at home. Having said that, obviously I can and do work at home, but yeah, I tend to when I'm writing the fiction books, what I tend to do is I have a notepad and I've got my phone. And if I'm walking around, I hear a little funny comment, I jot it down straight away and I think, that's interesting. If I hear a snippet of a story on the bus, I'll make a note. And then what I will do when I want to write the collection is I will go back and read my snippets and think, oh yeah. And then sometimes I'll think, oh yeah, and I bet this happened and then that happened and then it'll expand, and it's a story. And I've got one that I'm still waiting to use, but I've not used it yet. And I'll tell you what it was. I was on the bus once, and these two young women, and obviously one had been on a date, and the other one said, "What was he like?" And she said, "Well, you know, when Shrek turns into a prince." And I instantly knew exactly what she meant. And I thought, wow, that's yummy. So I wrote that in my notebook, and I haven't
Uh,
used it in the story yet, but I will.
you will, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, completely do. I think usually when you go out in the real world, sometimes you can get so much nuggets of information on people. One of my poetry books
Definitely.
was, and I did a book of haikus over lockdown because I was working in an office part of it, and the train was on was dead quiet, and I was often seeing people like I remember this one. There was one where a bloke pulled his phone out of his pocket and put his wedding ring in his other pocket, and I thought, I thought myself, that was a perfect haiku. That was. You do it, it's just that little bit of nuggets of information, isn't it? Really,
There's
everywhere
the
you go.
whole story there, isn't
Yeah,
it?
completely. Yeah. Now, with your book itself, what I really liked about this was you showed people how to develop healthy writing habits that will see you through your entire writing career.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, there's really good this because like I wish I'd seen it had this when I first started writing because it helped me out. And do you feel yourself when you're looking back at that now? If you'd had that from the beginning, it would have helped you a lot more when you first started, didn't it,
Definitely.
really?
Yeah, definitely. And just even if I'd have known that my brain likes to do things in a certain way, and I could have done it that way instead of trying to force myself. And I read lots of books, I listened to lots of podcasts, and people were like, do this, do that. And I was trying to do something that my brain didn't really like. And when people would be like, oh yeah, I sit at my desk and then morning pages, I don't let myself do anything until I've done my morning pages, and I would literally be wandering around the house at 3 o'clock. I had not allowed myself to eat breakfast or lunch or get dressed because I hadn't done my morning pages. I mean, that's torture. That's not, ugh, but I tried these things because I was like, oh, yeah, that's what proper writers do. So that's what I'm going to do. And I wanted people to read my book and be like, this is what's going to work for me. And I'm going to do that and keep doing it and keep producing these amazing books. That's what I want for them.
Yeah, no, I agree. You don't know, it's great. It's not, I've said for everybody, and you would agree with Eden with this, is with writing, there's no set right ways and no wrong ways. A lot of it is just trying to find what suits you as a person.
Yeah.
And that's what always counts how you work and stuff like. Like I
Yeah.
said, I work full time in an office and like it'd be when I get home from work, well, thankfully the job mat isn't too late to finish. I've had them before now. And it's like you're getting home and after tea. I will sit down and think to myself, 'cause I do all the things doctors write. I do podcasting, music, and other bits, and it's trying to work out in my head going on from work, what am I doing tonight? Because I think a lot of it is, and I don't know what you're like with this. I know people I've worked with, or when they get home from work, all they just do is turn the television on.
Yeah. No.
Not me, not me. It's not been me for like 25
No.
years, that to
No.
answer.
No. 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 It's really funny because I stopped doing that when I did my Open University degree. Um, and I'm in an hour whether I was going to have time and energy to do it. And then I thought, well, if I just, this is going to sound radical, but if I just stopped watching telly, in the same time it would take me to do the degree, I could have done nothing. When I thought about it like that, I mean, it doesn't mean I don't watch TV, I do, but I'm really selective about what I want to watch. And I've got about 4 programs that I watch, I record, so that, and obviously we can do that nowadays, that I can watch it when it's convenient to me.
Yeah,
But yeah, just watching drivel. And as a writer, you notice the more you watch, the more critical you become with what you're watching.
yeah,
And like I don't get the current trend for writing a series with no ending.
yeah.
It's like just like they were going along and then they just stopped. And I'm like, oh, okay. So yeah, you just get more selective about how you're going to spend your time for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree with you completely with that. It does. And I did my degree in actual creative writing and acting, and I've never really been able to go back to the theatre again after doing that degree, because I'm sat there and I've done it so many times now. It's same with novels, reading other people's novels. Your brain goes into that gauge and you're thinking, that's rubbish. Why did you do that? And somebody sent over to me recently, and I've been horrible. I'm not naming them. They sent me a novel over to do a review on Goodreads on, and I had to drop it after 50 pages because it was absolutely appalling. They made about five big mistakes in the first 10 pages, and it's you do yourself. You're teaching, don't you? Like you sat there thinking you've just made an absolute not one bad mistake, five of them, and I had to give it two out
Yeah.
of five, and I hate doing that. And acting, the plays are the same sometimes as well. You sat
Yeah.
there cringing for half an hour.
But and I think that's the thing. Once you kind of see behind the curtain with writing and like you said with acting, that once you see how it works and the nuts and bolts of how it's put together, it does give you a much more critical eye.
Yeah. But the important thing is I would never discourage people. Never, ever do
No,
this. Yeah,
no,
it was hard and then when I've did a review before and I've had to be I was nice of it, but actually I can't give it more than two out of five. But yeah, now obviously with the book itself then, one thing that you did really well with here was your exercises. And now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to have a go at these because I've deliberately decided I will have a go at these, but it's getting time in a minute.
yes,
But I love the fact that you had exercises throughout the book and then a full chapter at the end of it, chapter 12, which is just exercises.
yeah.
What made you want to do it that way?
Because I think telling somebody do this, do that, that's all very well, but I like to show people how are you actually going to put this into practice. And that I think that comes from my one-to-one mentoring that I could, if I just said to people, oh, when you're writing a book, you do this and this and this, they could learn that from a book, they could learn that from a podcast. Why are they coming and actually investing in seeing me and me and them? Because I need to tell them how to do it so that they can use that skill to carry forward. It's that thing of, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, teach a man to fish and he can feed himself for a lifetime.
Well said. Yeah, well said. No, I agree with you completely with that. So, yeah, like I said, it'd be no, that's pretty well my questions I'm going to ask you on the book today. But I always like asking all bits and pieces anyway. You know me by now what you doing with
I
that.
do.
Now, where are you up to with your fiction writing at the moment then? Have you got anything on the go with that at the moment?
So I haven't got any humour going at the moment, but I'm researching for something a little bit different for me. So because we talked about this when we were emailing, that I'm looking to do a pilgrimage, and it was going to be this year, but stuff. And it's not going to happen this year. But I've been doing a lot of research and started the walking practice because you need to do a lot of walking practice. And yeah, so and I want to. I've got a feeling that there's going to be a real kind of a real healing moment, a real epiphany on this pilgrimage. And I obviously don't know what that's going to be yet. So I've been doing a lot of work around that and just to say, lots of research. And I've also started a TikTok channel about the process. And yeah, and I'm hoping that it will encourage other people to think about what their dreams are. And I am registered disabled, and a lot of the time I'm encouraged to look at what I can't do, of which there are many things, but there's also loads of stuff I can do, and I that's what I want to be out here saying. Like, yes, we've got our diagnosis, and they cause the limitations they cause. That's reality, but we're also pretty flipping amazing in other areas. And let's try focusing on some of that stuff, shall we? So that's what I'm doing at the moment. It's a pre project. So yeah,
Brilliant. No, good luck with it, definitely.
thank
I think it's
you.
always a good tip writing is to do the pre project itself where you actually have a go at it sometimes. It's like you're gathering your thoughts and your notes in your own head.
Definitely.
Now, oh, who's the book of this? Amanda's really good at this sometimes. So she can have it with a poem where it can be like dangling around in her head for weeks sometimes, or a story, and she lets it process itself. You do it, yeah. There's no point in it. What do you think? Is just jumping straight into it. You need to be prepared for it, I think, sometimes,
Yeah,
don't you? So, and the
definitely.
research comes in anything like we do, particularly doing nonfiction as well. So, no,
Definitely.
Good luck with it, Eden, definitely so. And I'm
Thank
sure you'll
you.
be back to tell me again with it now.
I will.
Now, the book itself, obviously, where will people be able to get hold of this book?
So this is going to be available worldwide from all good retailers. So yeah, it's going to be ebook and paperback to start with. I'm not looking at audio straight away. And yeah, that's it's coming out. All being well, it's going to come out in March, if not before, depending how quickly my readers get back to me. Hint, hint.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, I'm one of them. That's all I'm going to say. And I've told you, you've heard my notes already on that one. So, but brilliant. Good love it, Eden. Now,
Thank you.
social media plugs. Where do people go?
So you're mainly going to find me on Facebook. So you can find me as Write, Publish and Market Your Books with Eden Gruger and Eden Gruger, the author. I'm also on LinkedIn if people are interested in working with me, and my Instagram, which I don't tend to check up on very much, but all of my Write, Publish and Market stuff is also on Instagram. And my TikTok channel is called Housebound to Hiking.
Brilliant. Thanks again, Eden. It's been a pleasure today. So hang around because we're going to talk a little bit further anyway, because a few bits of I need to go through with you today. Been a pleasure. I've really, really enjoyed this today. And
Me too.
it's been good. It gives you a chance to always tell people, not just plug books all the time or talk about your writing. You're talking about the process, and this is a vital fact for any writers, I believe,
Definitely.
anyway. So it's been a pleasure. Hopefully, so anyone listening today will learn something from us. I have. And I've been, people know how long I've been active for. So thank you again, Eden. Okay, folks, that's it today for Spoken Label for another episode. Thanks again to Eden. And as Don Callis over at AEW Wrestling says, stay safe and stay over. And we will see you all next time.